So the universe has pretty much told me that I need to make this guitar, so I'm going to do it. This body came off reverb. The neck pocket is cut for a telecaster neck heel. So whoever originally ordered this guitar intended for it to have a telecaster neck and headstock. This telecaster neck that I also got off reverb is a mahogany telecaster neck with a rosewood fingerboard, and it's cut with a Stratocaster neck heel. So whoever originally ordered this neck intended for it to go on a Stratocaster body. I may have to do some fitting to make this work, but I think it's worth it to make it happen. This is a real deal hip shot fixed bridge. You can get a lookalike on Amazon for $11. This is the real deal hip shot. It says genuine hip shot back here, and you can see that it is brass. This, I thought that the standard shiny black hardware that you can get and pickguard that you can get would not look great. So you can see here, this is a made in USA part. I will link in the description where I got this. It also came off reverb, but it is from a looks like a small company who makes these parts. This is made out of 6061 anodized aluminum. But I thought it was a really unique looking part. You can see the machining marks, and it's just really cool. I think so anyway. So I didn't want the standard shiny black plastic that you get just anywhere. So I special ordered this from Warmouth as well. And it will be a flat black guard. I don't know if you can see that, but the light is not going to reflect off of that like it does the standard pick guards. So I say the universe is telling me to make this guitar because of the way these things were originally faded, with the telecaster neck with the strat heel and the strat body with the telecaster neck cut. And also I already own these tuners, and they're black to go with the body, and it looks like the exact same tuners were on this guitar before. The neck is a really good fit in the pocket, left and right. So 0 is right at the nut, and 25.5, just a little beyond, is right at the bridge saddle. So we're good. So the wood grain on this neck is super nice. It is a flat sawn mahogany neck, which is a bit unusual, but you see some grain patterns that you would not typically see. This neck does, however, have a huge problem we're going to have to deal with. It has an issue at around the 5th or 6th fret. The neck is in a back bow position with the truss rod completely loose. It's kind of hard to show, so I'll run this clip a couple of times. But yeah, there's a hump right around the 5th or 6th fret. So the first step here is to get the frets out. I like to use solder in order to spread the heat more evenly. But pulling these first couple of frets was sort of scary. There was a lot of popping and cracking going on. So my fear here is that the fingerboard is going to chip badly, and it's going to not look great when all is said and done. So what I decided to try here was to just wet the fingerboard with some regular water and allow the steam to soften the wood as I pull the fret out. And that went much smoother and made me much more comfortable yanking these frets out of the fingerboard. And here it is with all the frets out, with nothing really cleaned up. That's just as soon as the frets came out. So now I've moved the neck over to my woodworking bench, and I'm going to get it in the tail vise. You have to be careful here. If you over clamp it, you can change the top surface of the fingerboard. To get the majority of the material off, I'll use a hand plane, and this is just a little bit quicker, and it allows me to target exactly where I want to pull material off. This will keep me from having to sand endlessly on this thing. Alright, so I'll change the setup around a little bit here. Instead of having the neck in the tail vise, I'll put the sanding beam in the tail vise. That's a 12-inch radius block. I'll get the fingerboard all marked up, and I will use both my hands and my body to sort of pinpoint exactly where I want to remove material. And I was able to get this board level very fast with this method, since I've already got most of the material out with the hand plane. It doesn't take very long at all. In fact, I think I show every bit of the sanding on this. I speed some of it up, but I show every bit of the sanding that I had to do to get this board level. Now what I'm going to do is add a little bit of fall away, and this is only from about the 17th or 15th fret on. All it's going to do is make that end of the fingerboard just a few thousandths of an inch lower than the rest of the fingerboard, and what that allows is for the strings, especially the bass strings, to vibrate in their wider pattern, and allows you to get a lower action on the neck without buzzes and rattles. Then I'll move over to hand sanding, being careful not to break that sharp fingerboard edge. And here's the fingerboard all cleaned up. So the frets I'm going to install have a 23 thousandths wide tang, and I can't even get a 22 thousandths wide feeler gauge into these fret slots. So every single fret slot is going to have to be widened out, and also they're the incorrect depth, so I'm going to have to make them all the correct depth as well. I'll take a triangular file here, and what I'm doing here is just breaking that corner so that I don't get any more chip out as I make multiple passes with the fret saw. This is fairly tedious, so I'll show a few of them, then a few in fast motion, and then I don't think I filmed all of this because it's pretty much the same thing, and I didn't think anybody would be interested in watching me do the same thing over and over again. Alright, so this is just double checking that every single slot is at the right depth and every single slot is clean and free of debris. And I'm going to get the fret wire that I'm going to use for this, which is Stuart McDonald 150 stainless, and get it bent. I like to just barely overbend the radius is the way that I like to do stainless steel. This is again pretty tedious, so I'm going to only film some of it and fast forward through most of it. It's just cutting each fret to the correct length. They are just barely long. I'm going to take one last opportunity to clean up the fingerboard surface with, I think that's 600 grit, might be 800 grit. It's not necessary to go that high, but I like to do that. And I forgot to clean the oil off the fret wire beforehand, so now I have to do it to each individual small piece instead of being able to quickly and easily do it to the entire stick before I cut it. So there's that cleaned up fingerboard, ready for frets, and I'm about to start pressing them. I like to start them with the hammer and then move over to the fret press and get them in there. I take a 1/1000 feeler gauge, and if I can fit it between the fingerboard and the fret, then I keep trying until I get it seated better. So here you go. I slow down a little bit and I can show you. I get it pressed. Then I'm going to check with that feeler gauge. And I think I had a gap in the middle. Yep, so I'm going to press again. That's going to take care of that gap in the middle. And it looks like I was happy with that. What I'm going to do is take a little bit of wax and put it around the fret. Then I'm going to take a couple of brad nails and put some super glue on those brad nails and then run that super glue into the base of the fret. And this is a very thin viscosity super glue. You can get this from StuMac, or the one that I have is Titebond, and I think it came from Woodcraft. So yeah, I'll just continue on with the fretting process, and every single fret is pretty much the exact same thing. I'll get it down until I'm happy with it and keep moving. And here's the frets all installed with the ends not cut flush yet, and apparently I forgot to film that because I don't have any footage of it. So yeah, it's going to cut straight over to the frets cut even with the end of the board. So I thought I would show rounding the fret ends. This is a neck I'm fretting. Right now the new frets have been installed, they've been leveled, and they've been crowned. So now it's time to shape the fret ends. One important thing to note is that I don't like to do a 45-degree angle. It's just a preference thing for me. but look at the real estate that you gain here by not doing a 45-degree angle. I do a little bit of a cut, but not a full 45. Now I want the end of this fret to be almost hemispherical, almost a half circle. So I'm going to do that with this Stewart McDonald file. And you can see that one is nicely rounded versus the others there. When I run my finger over it, I can't feel it hardly at all. And those look really good to me after they're polished up, and they leave that extra little bit of playing room on the top surface of the fret. This is by far the most tedious part of the process, especially on stainless. It takes about 4 minutes per fret end. Alright, now they've all been rounded. The next thing that I like to do is around the fingerboard ends, and I like to do this after the fret is installed. That allows me to get the fret perfectly flush with the edge of the fingerboard, and then I'll do that kind of by hand, rounding all the edges there. That just is a much better feel. Some people hate steel wool. You have to be careful with it, especially around electronics and batteries. It will start fires with 9 volts. Or steel wool, it will start a fire with a 9-volt battery, so you have to be careful about that. And in here, looks like I'm going to start the polishing process. So rather than take off the entire fingerboard, what I like to do is tape off a fret at a time and run through the polishing process. You can do it either way, really. This is just what I prefer, and it also tends to waste less tape. And I'm not going to do a big reveal of those shiny frets just yet because I've still got to finish this neck. And I'd originally intended to do a spray finish on the neck, but ended up doing a hand finish. So my intention was to spray finish in the nut, but it didn't work out that way, given that I went with the hand finish. But the nut was installed before the finish, and there's kind of still a little layer of finish over that. See, I'm getting this right where I need it. I'll take an X-Acto knife and mark exactly with the flush with the edge of the board. And then I couldn't see that very well, so I just took some pencil lead quickly and rubbed it in there, and makes that line much more visible. Then I'll get this over to the vise and get it cut flush with the file. I think I did a rough cut with a saw first, like a hacksaw, then I get it flush here with the file. And that ended up being super flush. I couldn't feel it at all with the edge of my finger. So it's time to glue that nut in. I like to do just a single drop of super glue, as it's pretty common in a guitar's lifetime to have the nut removed multiple times, and I don't want that taking any material with it or anything. Get a little super glue on the fingerboard there, and I just cleaned it up quickly with the edge of a chisel. So yeah, a lot of sanding, and then moving on to finishing the neck. I'll just let that play out. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. So I was looking back at some of this footage, and my workbench was looking pretty rough, so I actually ended up sanding the top of the workbench and putting a little coat of finish on it and cleaning some things up and using some Kaizen foam to make a few homes on the bench top there. This is not quite as self-explanatory as the rest. So mahogany is an open pore wood, and those pores need to be filled. So what I do is scuff this with 220, and then I'm going to put the satin polyurethane directly on the sandpaper, and it makes kind of a wood dust and polyurethane slurry, and all that is what's going to be inside the wood pores, and that's going to fill up the pores. That's what I'm using as a pore filler, basically. It's the simplest way to say that. It actually took me over 3 weeks on and off of applying coats, letting coats dry, and moving on. It's a totally different day, although it seems like I'm wearing the same shirt, and I think I am wearing the same shirt, but it's a totally different day than earlier in the video. Alright, so that's the majority of the build. For the next couple of shots here, I think the audio was no good. So these are kind of just beauty shots. You can look over the guitar, see how it looks, see all the parts. That satin finish, I think, came out really nice. This one came out so good as well that I decided to sign and date it and give it a number. And you can see that anodized aluminum jack plate. And then I think I forgot to talk about these knobs. They're also aluminum with these kind of rubber O-rings to make it really comfortable to grab the knob. The telecaster switch tip. And here I'm just going to finish out the nut, polish it up with some micro mesh. You'll see in just a moment. And then get you a sound check and get this video live. So my goal with a lot of this polishing and extra work, like making the fret ends round and rounding over this nut and having everything feel just really smooth, is I just really want the player to have the best experience possible and just feel like they have nothing between them and making music. When they pick up the guitar, there's just nothing in the way. So I wanted to do something a little bit more formal with the kind of sound check for the video, but it's been too long, so I'm just going to kind of set my cell phone up and take some shots. It should give you a good enough idea. A couple other points I wanted to talk about. The knobs have these rubber O-rings around it. Makes it really nice to grab the knobs and spin them when you need to. They're also elevated a little bit off the body so that you can reach them easier as you're playing. I chose a telecaster style switch tip, just because we've got the tele headstock. It was a bone nut. You saw me make that in the video. This is a set of Gibson 490s. These were covered. I took the covers off just to sort of match the color scheme better. So let's hear this real quick through Nice Boogie Lone Star. So, the bottom we got a bridge humbucker. Right. I'll just run through these. This is relatively clean right here. Kind of pushed, but relatively clean. Next position up, you will get a little bit of noise from the atmosphere because we're running a couple singles. You're running this single and this single. So the far back and the far forward singles, because you know, telecaster, right? So. Sort of what you get there. And then of course, I did forget to mention this, but master volume, master tone. middle position, both humbuckers. Next position up, got a strat body, right? So I decided to do the neck humbucker running in parallel. That's a pretty good simulation of a strat. If that was in a mix, I think you had a sort of funk part in the mix. That would do that for you. And then neck humbucker, you know, you get your saturated neck humbucker deals out of here. Clean. I'll run through them real quick again, dirty. Bridge humbucker. Let's get a little bit more volume to sort of match that. And obviously not high gain, but a little bit more distortion. Back in that number 2. That's this one running in series, by the way. I think I forgot to say that. And then your 2 humbuckers, right? Sort of saturated thing really well. And then again, that sort of stratty parallel thing with the neck humbucker. And then the full neck humbucker. Running regular in series like a humbucker should. That's the guitar in a nutshell, kind of what sounds you get out of here. Really designed for somebody on the job, really. You know, some people don't like the coil splits and that sort of thing, and I get it. There's a lot of things that you can do in the bedroom sitting around with an amp that doesn't work when you get on stage somewhere, but these, to me, you can access them very quickly. If you need that telecaster sort of sound, you just go to that number 2 position, you got it. Yeah, you need that strat sort of sound for like a funk rhythm type of thing, you got it right there. I think you can take this guitar to a rock gig, you're good to go. Country gig, you're good to go. It's really who this guitar is intended for, is somebody who's going to be gigging with it. And if you take one guitar, you can do any job that you have. Could be done with this guitar. Strap buttons as well, show you those. It's kind of intended to be like a strap lock, but not. Like you have to put the strap in. Well, let me get one and I'll edit it out for you. So this style strap button I was talking about just a second ago, you have the it's kind of oblong shape. You have to sort of get your strap 90 degrees to it, and then when you're in playing position, this thing's not going anywhere. It's like a 0 parts strap lock is the way I like to think about it. I'm real fond of these. Really slick feeling to the back of the neck. Same with the body. It's kind of the whole guitar's got a really slick feeling to it overall. So there you go. This is the Universe Telecaster, number 16. I would normally not number a guitar that's a parts caster like this. Normally I do that with just custom builds, but this thing came out so good. I had so much work in the neck. That's what I decided to do. So yeah, you got a number.